Do you know how to protect yourself from misinformation in today's world? With the rise of fake news and disinformation, it's becoming more and more difficult these days to tell the truth from falsehood. In this video, I will give you some practical tips on how you can stay informed and not fall a victim of misinformation. One of the biggest challenges with misinformation is, in fact, its virality. Posts spreading intentional misinformation often receive a huge amount of engagement, and people are actually really bad at separating truth from false. Does it mean they are dumb? Absolutely not. The problem is that the bar of falsehood is actually set very high, and even experts like me can fall a victim of misinformation. To avoid falling victim to misinformation, there are several steps you can take. Double-check information from reputable sources before believing it or sharing it. Investigate the source of information, especially if it comes from an unknown website or from a profile you don't know. The one I'm going to mention now, it's very often not being used, but it's one of the most successful ones. Cross-check the information whether there are several sources citing exactly the same thing. Because what you're looking for is whether the information is consistent. You can also use fact-checking websites to verify what you have just heard. This one might be a little bit hardcore, but don't share the information blindly without verifying it first, even though it comes from a colleague or from a family member. One of the best tricks that all those false videos and posts are using is playing on your emotions. So make sure you actually have your emotions in check and that you are not reacting impulsively, because this is exactly the kind of leverage they are using to increase the virality of their posts. And this could be, for example, something I have seen a lot on, for example, people doing some cooking, and they intentionally do things which are horrible to anyone who knows more or less how to cook. But the thing is, if you look into the comments, you will see plethora of mentions saying that this is horrible, you don't know how to cook, it's bad, and so on. But the problem is, each and every comment is actually increasing the virality of that post. I think the saddest part is that there's also plenty of comments where people actually praise the author and they take it as a truth. It's also important to educate yourself about the types of misinformation you can actually meet in the wild. And to be honest, misinformation doesn't fall far from something that we call phishing. And phishing is simply a way of tricking you into releasing some of important information like your credit card statement or your personal data, so that the criminals on the other side can use it for their own purpose. The thing is, the only way to learn how to deal with these is to actually expose yourself to live examples. And I'm not saying that you should fall a victim of phishing or you should now try to become a victim of false information. No. Educate yourself, because there's plenty of good resources. For example, when it comes to phishing, there's a great book called Easy Prey, and I recommend this book to any IT professional working in an office. If you read that book and educate your staff within the office, you're going to see much fewer phishing events happening in your area, I would say. This follows the pattern that I have mentioned in one of my previous videos about actually you have to learn how to hack in order to build better systems. Here, in order to protect yourself, you actually have to learn a little bit more how the criminals are operating and how the false information is being spread and constructed. Because once you know the method, you will actually have real tools that will allow you to protect yourself, and that will always trigger that little light in your head saying, maybe I shouldn't trust this. Maybe I shouldn't trust this.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
As a tech enthusiast, I have also experienced the dangers of false information. It happened on several occasions, but I think the biggest one was when I actually decided to use technology endorsed by a large vendor, and I invested a lot of time. I implemented the solution, but once we made some staging testing where we started to putting some load on it, we figured out that it doesn't work. It's actually a maintenance hell. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. I would even say it doesn't do what it was advertised to do. So in that case, I was of course left with a bitter taste in my mouth. Up until today, I don't trust this vendor anymore. And what I remember from that time, it was a lot of stress and a lot of non-billable hours that I simply had to write off because I still had to deliver a solution to my customer. Remember, misinformation can be challenging to identify and avoid, but by being positively skeptical, verifying information, using critical thinking, and of course fact-checking, you can protect yourself from the dangers of it. And as I said before, it's extremely important to educate yourself on the examples of misinformation so that you're prepared, because as I said, then you will have some real tools at hand you can use that will help you later on. If you are unsure whether a given information is false or not, of course, you can always use experts. There's plenty of professionals just like me that work by the hour that will definitely help you to find a solution that fits your business in the best way. Because there is one more thing that we sometimes forget. A little bit of that sugar coating is being also used during sales meetings. And of course, I don't want to badmouth now the good salespeople because there's plenty of them. But very often, the technical facts are just being cross-checked without going into details, and sometimes there is a little bit too much of sugar coating, and later on it usually means problems. The thing is also that salespeople, they often lack the technical expertise and they might not see whether their products is actually a fit for your business, because for that you actually need someone more technical, someone that knows how your business works and maybe knows a little bit more from experience whether a given product is good or not. So, if unsure, reach out, because the cost of a potential cleanup later on is much higher than spending an hour or two with a professional helping you figure out what you should do. Don't fall victim to the dangers of misinformation. Stay informed and stay vigilant.